Well, let's go to this. Let's go to this narrative about, and it's been an ongoing narrative, that the West should have reacted like China. That China is a great example of,
But
look how
who's spinning this media? That's my question. You know what I mean? Like, there's a saying too, a devil known is better than a devil not known. And I like the devil of North America much better than a devil of fucking China.
well, but the question is, are they different devils? You know, are they really different devils at the end of the day?
I'm using the anchor of everyday people. So in North America, let's say Canada, United States, pretty much, well, not the same, but almost the same type of quote unquote freedoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can still practice a religion I want to practice. I can
Can you? Because the churches are closed.
Not right now, no. But in China, I can't, if I'm depending where I am, I can't even practice a religion before all this stuff.
Right.
And I can't publicly even have a debate of why the government is doing bad things, or else I'm gone. At least in Canada, United States, I can say, well, our president is not good. I don't like the policies he's suggesting. I don't like his cabinet, and we should vote. If I said that in China, I'm gone.
But I think that it's just a matter of degrees in some way, because ultimately what they want is they want your voice removed from out of the public discourse.
I've always said, and you said this earlier, I'm glad you brought it up. I've always said the powers that win is the powers that export culture. Mm-hmm. And so for the last 50 years, the United States has export culture through Hollywood, through media, through Silicon Valley. And we have a little bit of export from China, but more or less because they don't have freedom of, you don't even call it, like Canada doesn't have freedom of speech like the United States does. The United States is probably the only rarest country. I can talk for the most part, certain things I'm not, but for the most part, I can say whatever the fuck I want in Canada to a certain degree. I can scrutinize the government. I can tell you fuck off, blah, 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 blah. And so these ideas propagate and they create this zeitgeist of culture that other people pick up. Like you go to Iran, it's American, Canadian culture. You go to China, you go to Japan, they're adopting the millennials are adopting the culture of the United States. No one's coming like, oh man, I really want to adopt the Chinese way of living under fucking CCP. Yeah. Sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, it's well, but the question becomes though, where is culture? You know, I think that what culture is and how it's expressed has been different in the last 10 years. So if we go back to 70s, 80s, 90s, and what has been exported, then I think that you could really say that American culture could be identified, right? That this came from America. But I think that if you look in the last, let's say, 10 years, but really in the last 5 years, 10 years especially, is the globalization has happened to such a degree that it's like, especially when it comes to pop music, I dare you to tell, like a brand new artist comes out, I dare you to tell me what country that artist is from. I dare you, even just by looking at them, right? I dare you to tell, I mean, the last 10 years has seen, like Drake and The Weeknd. I don't think that anybody 30 years ago would have been like, oh yeah, Canada. These guys, I'm looking at these guys, I'm listening, and The Weeknd is like Ethiopian. Mm-hmm. So it's like the hodgepodge, the mix has done something such that it's almost, again, it's supernatural. Like the culture is supernatural. But I think that the culture that China has imported is a corporate culture. There's is it called The Factory? There's this Netflix documentary. I'm trying to, I'll describe it and you may have seen it, but it's
the Chinese billionaire that gets a factory in the United States.
A factory in the US, and then the US people go to China and they see how basically
China has penetrated deep in the United States on all levels. Kyle Bass, famous investor, he talks about this 24/7.
So this is what I mean by, where is culture? like how much of culture is determined by your, the clothing that you're wearing and the music that you're listening to, what we traditionally think of as the American culture that was exported, the movies that you're watching, and how much of it is dictated by how the place that you work treats you and how you move through your day, how your day is structured in the place that you work. And I think that if you look at the essential businesses now, and you look at their company policies, and you look at how they treat their employees, and you look at what's expected of their
Mm-hmm.
employees to be cogs in a machine, it is very much more Chinese than it is what we think of traditionally with America. And I mean, the idea of like the union and all of that is really gone. Like those businesses are going to be put under. All of the businesses that formerly had unions, they're furloughing workers and shit from the government positions that had government unions, state workers unions, and whatnot. We're coming. That's what I think is the culture that China brought, and it was just a matter of efficiency, right? It's that like, well, if we want to compete, we've got to behave in this way, and that's really being shown in that documentary, right? And it's I do think that that's a much more important aspect of culture, because it's the indoctrination, it's the Pavlovian conditioning of the worker, and that's what is carrying us through. That people are just, because it extends to listening to the government in the way that people are, to not question. People are not questioning the narratives, even though it's only been 60 days really with this bullshit. And every single narrative that was pushed, from how many people were going to die, to what measures were necessary, to ventilators were actually going to save people's lives, to we're going to need these hospital ships and these field hospitals, they've 100% been bullshit. Every one of them. 100% bullshit. Every single one of them has been walked back. And yet they come up with a new thing, and the exact same people who've been bullshitting you for 2 months have 80 to 90% of the population like, oh, okay, we'll just forget.
But that's normal, 89%. My theory of why the bullshit continues state by state is no different than happening. Is actually the same as corporations, states, hedge funds, you name it. We'll call them entities. All of them realize once the Fed open up the war chest, they can get money. Mm-hmm. And so I look at human beings as incentive-based creatures. We're irrational, but we're very easily predictable. Yeah. And so it's like, oh, money. Okay, how do I get more money? Oh, I have to be more of a victim. Oh, I got to propagate my numbers. I got to get more in debt. Okay. Help me. We have a 50,000 debts and $3 billion in debt, blah, blah, blah. Give me the fucking Federal Reserve fucking helicopter money. So everybody is trying to make their situation as worse as possible. Like, fuck, today I put it on Twitter. The Fed is bailing out states. They're buying out the debt of states. Like, fuck. You guys might end up coming like Canada, where it's just one, like no states, like is like a one centralized government.
Well, but it's not government. That's what's so interesting. And that's why I think when we talk about like it goes right back to the idea of the reveal, the big reveal of who's really in charge. All the people who've been saying, pay attention to the central bankers, we're a part of that group. But I think that that's been such esoteric knowledge to most people, because most people are like, oh, no, it's like the president, it's like Trump and this guy that you elect, and it's the prime minister and it's the queen and this. No. It hasn't been that for a very,
very long time. Yeah.
Right? And it's these guys in the background running these central banks. And the reason why they have power is because money printer go burr.
Yep.
And they put you into debt.
Yep.
And then they can bail you out of the debt, and then they own you.
Yeah. That's IMF strategy. They go around the world like, hey, Africa, you want $100 billion? Sure. You can't pay it back? Well, give me all your water.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is that game works because what they've realized very astutely that the population has not realized is that the people with the most political power are a bunch of fucking psychopaths.
Oh, yeah.
They're a bunch of greedy.
They have to be. They have to be in that position. Yeah.
How do you rise to become a dictator in an African country if you're not an absolute psychopath?
Yeah. And this is the thing that people understand. They call them evil, but I'm like, they're not. I'll tell you why. In their mind, they're just. It's not like they wake up like, oh, I'm Dr. Evil. No, what I'm doing is just, and I believe it's for the greater good.
Well, Robert Hare is Dr. Robert Hare, who's the inventor of the Hare psychopathy checklist. It's something everybody should know.
Oh, I heard about this before. Yeah.
He's studied psychopathy, which we really don't. To be honest, we use the term psychopath, but it's really a very understudied thing. And one of the reasons why is because those in power tend to check off a lot of the things.
Of course,
so
yeah.
You don't get a lot of funding for this. But his thesis after study, he's the foremost expert on psychopathy, right? And he created what is the diagnostic sort of checklist to check it off that they do for criminals and whatnot. His thesis is that it's somewhere between 1% and 7 to 8% of the population are these things, psychopaths, right? Born psychopaths. And that fundamentally what it is that they lack empathy.
Mm-hmm.
That they are predators. They're basically predators.
There's theories, though, of why they exist in society.
Well, they're very important. I mean, without psychopaths, they've been a part of the human experience for so long. They're like an inseparable. You could never separate them out. Some people are just born that way,
mm-hmm.
and I mean, beings are predators, right? Like we are the most badass predator that has ever lived on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
If there had been Tyrannosaurus Rexes alive when human beings were around, they would be gone now because we would have eliminated them.
Mm-hmm.
Like tigers, have you been next to a tiger? We put them in cages. You know what I mean? Sharks, great white sharks, we'll get down in a cage and swim around with them. And if we want that shark dead, we'll kill it tomorrow. Right? The only reason we're letting it swim around next to us and not kill it is because it's entertaining to us, right? To tease it, right? But we're not scared at all. This is just like an aspect, almost like an astrological sign, right? That like some people are just born and they are just full predators.